Welcome to A Lasting Legacy. I'm Michael. Today we pause to remember extraordinary legends who are no longer with us. Their passion, talent, and dedication inspired millions worldwide. Join us as we honor their journeys across film, music, and culture, celebrating lives that will forever inspire future generations. Dee Freeman was a familiar and quietly respected figure on television, known for bringing sincerity and depth to every role she played. She passed away at the age of 66 after an illness, leaving behind a body of work that reflects her steady presence in the entertainment world. Her performances, whether leading or supporting, often carried a natural warmth that connected easily with audiences and made her characters feel real and grounded. Screen work highlights. Freeman is best remembered for her work in the web series Pretty the Series and her recurring role on The Young and the Restless. Over the years, she also appeared in several popular television shows, including Sisters, Seinfeld, and Dexter. Even in brief guest appearances, she had a way of adding authenticity and quiet strength to the screen, making her contributions memorable beyond the length of her roles. Service and legacy. Before her acting career, Freeman served 6 years in the United States Marine Corps, an experience that shaped her discipline and resilience. That foundation carried into her professional life, influencing both her work ethic and on-screen presence. She leaves behind a legacy of dedication, talent, and understated strength that will continue to be remembered by those who followed her career. 15 years ago, this week, the world lost Elizabeth Taylor at the age of 79, but her presence still feels vivid and close. She wasn't only a film icon, she was a rare kind of screen energy that seemed to pull every viewer into her world. Her performances carried emotion so naturally that they often felt lived rather than acted, leaving a lasting mark on cinema history. From child star to screen legend, Taylor's journey began early with National Velvet, where her warmth and natural charm made her instantly beloved. As she matured, she took on more complex roles, showing impressive range in films like Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Her Oscar-winning performance in Butterfield 8 revealed a more vulnerable side, while Cleopatra cemented her status as one of the most unforgettable figures in Hollywood. Beyond the glamour off-screen, she was equally layered, passionate about life, open about her struggles, and deeply resilient through changing times. While her beauty and fame often made headlines, it was her emotional honesty that truly defined her legacy. Even today, Elizabeth Taylor is remembered not just for her films, but for the powerful humanity she brought to every moment she lived. A recent message circulating online suggests that journalist and UFO researcher Nick Pope has passed away. However, there is no credible or verified confirmation from reliable news outlets or official sources supporting this claim. As a result, it should be treated as unverified information rather than a factual report. Background on Nick Pope. Nick Pope is known as a British author and media commentator who previously worked with the UK Ministry of Defence. During his time there, he was involved in reviewing and analyzing public reports related to unidentified aerial phenomena, which later contributed to his public reputation in the UFO research space. Career and writing. After leaving government service, Pope wrote and spoke extensively about his experiences. His memoir, Open Skies, Closed Minds, reflects on his time examining unusual aerial reports and the broader questions they raised about security, perception, and unexplained sightings. public presence, and influence. Beyond writing, he has frequently appeared in documentaries and television discussions, including programs focused on unexplained phenomena. His participation in public forums and live events has made him a recognizable figure in popular discussions about UFOs and government transparency. 10 years ago this week, we remember Malik Taylor, known to the world as Phife Dawg. He is honored for helping shape a more grounded and relatable side of hip-hop. His presence brought humor, honesty, and a human perspective that listeners still connect with today. Even years later, his verses feel fresh and rooted in everyday experience. A voice in a tribe called Quest. As a key member of a tribe called Quest, Phife Dawg helped balance the group's sound alongside his bandmates. His sharp delivery and playful storytelling contrasted with smooth production and thoughtful lyricism. Together, they shaped a new direction for alternative hip-hop in the 1990s, blending jazz influences with street-level realism. Lasting impact on hip-hop. His influence continues across generations of artists and listeners. Many rappers cite his style as a model for authenticity and rhythm, while fans still return to classic records for comfort and inspiration. Phife Dawg's contribution goes beyond a single era. His voice remains part of hip-hop's foundation, showing how music can be intelligent and personal. Jason Momoa's story is often told through the lens of fame, strength, and cinematic dominance, but beneath the surface lies a far more complex journey shaped by displacement, struggle, reinvention, and emotional depth. From the coastal rhythms of Hawaii to the quiet hardships of the American Midwest, his life has moved like a tide, pulling him through loss, identity searching, survival, and eventual transformation. What the world sees as charisma and physical power is only the outer layer of a man forged by absence, resilience, and constant motion. This is not just a story of celebrity ascent, but of a human being shaped by forces larger than ambition, family fractures, cultural duality, personal sacrifice, and the long pursuit of belonging in a world that rarely stood still for him. Origins in the ocean's embrace. Jason Momoa's beginning was rooted in the spirit of the sea, where Hawaii's landscapes shaped not only his childhood but the emotional rhythm of his identity. Born into a world where nature felt alive with meaning, he carried an inherited connection to water, wind, and volcanic earth. His early life was shaped by creative parents, whose contrasting backgrounds blended artistry, culture, and sensitivity. Yet, this foundation was disrupted early, as separation fractured the home he knew. The ocean that once symbolized continuity became a distant memory, replaced by uncertainty and emotional dislocation. Even in childhood, he absorbed a sense of longing that would follow him into adulthood. The tides of his birthplace did not leave him. They simply receded into memory, waiting to resurface later in life as both inspiration and internal compass. Displacement and the silence of Iowa. When his life shifted from Hawaii to the Midwest, the contrast was stark and disorienting. Iowa presented a world stripped of the ocean's presence, replacing it with fields, snow, and silence that felt unfamiliar and heavy. The transition was not merely geographical, it was emotional exile. The warmth of coastal life gave way to isolation, where cultural identity and belonging became harder to define. In this new environment, he experienced the quiet ache of invisibility, as though the essence of who he was had been set aside. The absence of his father and the fragmentation of his early family life compounded this feeling, creating a deep internal void. Yet within this disconnection, something resilient began forming. an inner refusal to disappear, to be shaped only by circumstance rather than will. The formation of a restless spirit, adolescence and early adulthood became a period of restless searching. Traditional paths of education and structure could not contain the intensity of his inner world. He gravitated toward movement, challenge, and physical expression as ways to process emotions that had no clear language. Nature remained a silent teacher, and he often sought it in whatever form was available, as if reconnecting with something ancient and essential. His identity became layered with contradiction, strength and sensitivity, discipline and chaos, grounding and drift. He explored different places and disciplines, not out of aimlessness, but from an instinctive need to reconstruct a sense of self. This phase of life was less about direction and more about survival through motion, building resilience through experience rather than stability. Return to the ocean and early breakthrough. Eventually, the pull of Hawaii became impossible to ignore, drawing him back to the place where his emotional roots had first taken shape. Returning did not immediately restore peace, but it reintroduced familiarity, waves, heat, and a sensory language that felt like home. Life, however, remained difficult. Work was inconsistent, and stability was fragile. He took on whatever opportunities appeared, navigating financial uncertainty and emotional fatigue. Yet this period marked the beginning of visibility. A chance encounter opened the door to modeling, which soon transitioned into acting opportunities. These early roles were not glamorous, but they introduced him to the structure of performance and discipline under observation. It was here that he first began transforming raw presence into craft, learning how to exist within attention without losing authenticity, the discipline of becoming seen. As opportunities expanded, so did the pressure of being watched. Acting demanded control, repetition, and emotional precision, qualities that had to be learned through experience rather than instinct. He faced now the challenge of translating internal intensity into external performance without losing the rawness that defined him. Early television roles required endurance and adaptability, often pushing him into physically demanding environments. The process was not smooth. It was built through repetition, mistakes, and gradual refinement. Each role became a lesson in restraint and expression, teaching him how to channel instinct into character. The experience shaped his understanding of visibility, not as effortless presence, but as disciplined construction. Endurance, through physical and emotional trials. With time, his roles became more physically demanding, requiring a level of endurance that mirrored his internal history. Action-driven performances pushed him into harsh conditions where exhaustion and injury were constant companions. Yet, these challenges echoed earlier life experiences, transforming struggle into familiarity. Pain became part of the process rather than an interruption to it. He learned to navigate intensity without collapse, carrying forward a mindset shaped by years of adaptation. Emotionally, this period also demanded resilience, as the instability of the industry mirrored earlier uncertainties in his personal life. Through persistence, he built a reputation defined not just by appearance, but by commitment, presence, and the ability to withstand pressure without losing focus. Transformation, through breakthrough recognition. As recognition grew, his identity shifted from emerging performer to widely acknowledged figure. Major roles brought global attention, reshaping how he was perceived by audiences and industry alike. Yet, this visibility came with a dual burden: admiration and expectation. He became associated with strength, intensity, and mythic presence, roles that amplified his physicality, but also risked simplifying his emotional depth. Behind the screen, however, he remained a person shaped by complexity rather than stereotype. The contrast between public perception and private reality became more pronounced, forcing him to navigate fame without losing personal grounding. This period marked a turning point where success was no longer about arrival, but about sustainability. Loss, love, and emotional reconstruction. Amid rising fame, personal relationships played a defining role in shaping his emotional world. A long-term partnership and family life introduced stability, creativity, and deep emotional bonds. Over time, however, change became inevitable and separation brought emotional recalibration. Rather than breaking him, this shift transformed his understanding of love and impermanence. He moved from intensity-driven connection toward a more grounded, presence-based form of relating. Fatherhood became central, reshaping priorities and softening earlier extremes of ambition and restlessness. The focus shifted toward consistency, shared experience, and emotional availability. In this phase, strength became less about endurance alone and more about care, responsibility, and presence in everyday life. Purpose beyond performance. As his career evolved, so did his sense of responsibility beyond entertainment. Environmental advocacy, cultural preservation, and creative independence became increasingly important. He began using influence not for amplification of self, but for amplification of causes tied to identity, land, and sustainability. This shift marked a transition from performer to participant in broader global conversations. His work began reflecting long-term thinking, emphasizing preservation over visibility and impact over recognition. Projects were chosen with intention, often aligning with values rooted in heritage and environmental awareness. This phase revealed a more deliberate approach to life, where meaning carried greater weight than momentum. The philosophy of balance and presence. With maturity came a redefinition of success. Rather than constant expansion, he began prioritizing balance between work and family, visibility and privacy, ambition and rest. This philosophy reflected lessons accumulated through years of movement and change. He learned that presence in personal life could not be substituted by professional achievement. Relationships, health, and emotional grounding became central pillars rather than secondary concerns. The pursuit of intensity gave way to the pursuit of alignment, where choices were guided by sustainability rather than urgency. This shift did not diminish his drive, it refined it, focusing energy toward what could endure rather than what could impress. The weight of identity and inner conflict. Jason Momoa's life carries an ongoing negotiation between who he was born as and who the world expects him to be. Beneath the image of power and cinematic dominance lies a man constantly balancing cultural identity, emotional memory, and public projection. His Hawaiian roots, early displacement, and exposure to contrasting environments created a layered sense of self that never settled into simplicity. He grew up carrying both belonging and distance at the same time, connected deeply to the ocean, yet separated from it during formative years. This duality shaped his internal world, where strength and sensitivity coexisted without canceling each other out. Even as fame amplified one version of him, another quieter identity remained intact, rooted in reflection, heritage, and emotional depth. His journey reflects the struggle of holding multiple selves within one body, while still moving forward in a world that demands clarity, labels, and constant definition. Fame, pressure, and the cost of visibility. As Jason Momoa stepped deeper into global recognition, the intensity of visibility became its own challenge. Success brought opportunity, but it also introduced pressure that reshaped his relationship with privacy, identity, and control. Being seen on such a massive scale meant every expression, role, and choice carried amplified meaning. The qualities that once helped him survive, intensity, physical strength, emotional openness, were now consumed by public interpretation. Fame turned presence into performance, and performance into expectation. Behind the roles that defined him for millions, there remained the quiet reality of fatigue, adjustment, and constant recalibration. The weight of being perceived as larger than life created an ongoing tension between authenticity and image. Yet within this pressure, he learned to refine himself rather than fracture, transforming visibility into a tool rather than a trap, and slowly shaping a career built on both power and awareness. Reinvention, grounding, and the search for meaning over time, Jason Momoa's path evolved from survival and ambition into something more grounded, an intentional pursuit of meaning, balance, and emotional clarity. Instead of chasing constant expansion, he began focusing on what remained stable beneath change: family, values, environment, and personal integrity. This shift marked a quiet reinvention where success was no longer measured by external validation but by internal alignment. His choices began reflecting long-term thinking, emphasizing sustainability in both life and work. Relationships became more present, creative projects more selective, and public engagement more purposeful. Rather than escaping his past, he integrated it, allowing earlier struggles to inform a calmer and more conscious present. In this phase, strength transformed again, no longer just endurance or force, but the ability to remain grounded while still evolving. Legacy in motion. Today, his journey represents more than a career trajectory. It reflects a continuous process of becoming. Each phase of his life contributes to a broader narrative of adaptation, resilience, and self-definition. The ocean remains a recurring symbol, not just of origin, but of continuity, representing change that never fully stops. His story is not defined by a single transformation, but by many ongoing ones. Fame, hardship, love, loss, and purpose all exist as interconnected elements of a life still in motion. What emerges most clearly is not perfection, but persistence, the ability to remain in motion even when direction shifts. Conclusion. Jason Momoa's life illustrates that strength is not a fixed trait, but an evolving response to circumstance, memory, and responsibility. Beneath the public image lies a journey shaped by displacement, emotional depth, and constant reinvention. His path reveals that identity is not something discovered once, but continuously formed through experience. From ocean-born beginnings to global recognition, from personal loss to renewed purpose, his story reflects the complexity of a life lived fully in transition. Ultimately, it is not fame that defines him, but endurance, the quiet ability to move forward while carrying everything that shaped him.